Alright, hey guys. So, a few months ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Spenny from Kenny vs. Spenny, and recently, one of those clips has gone a little more. It's blown up, okay, and it has like 2.5 thousand viewers, which is a lot for this channel, and a lot of people are bringing up some good points, and I want to kind of address those points in this video. So, first of all, answering the question, can you make Kenny versus Spenny in 2021? Well, I have some points for and some points against, what's going for them and what's going against them. So let's talk about this first, and then once I go through these points here, I'm going to pull up the comments that you guys were putting on that video and kind of go through them one by one and see what you guys are saying. So first of all, points going for them is their age. I really think that the older and fatter they get, the funnier the show becomes, okay? Because you can tell Kenny's face. He's got like the big raccoon eyes. He's like really like he's looking a little rugged, not gonna lie. Same thing with Spenny, but it's normal. The show was like what 20 years ago. But I feel like the older they get, the funnier it is, and the more they're just like, why the fuck do we do this? So I feel like their age, the older they get, the funnier it is. It's not like one of these shows where it's like, hurry up, the cast is getting old, and we have to get it. No, Kenny versus Spenny, you can wait. The longer you wait, the funnier it is, in my opinion. So that's what they have going for them. Secondly, the climate. Today's climate, I feel like there's a lot of tension on social media and in real life. People are a little on edge. People don't know what to say, when to say it. People are like overly polite these days. And I feel like a show like Kenny vs. Spenny can just knock down that door and be like, you know what, let's just go crazy. And I feel like if you do release Kenny vs. Spenny in 2021, there is a large market of people who think like me, who are like, I want to see more crass comedy out there. So I feel like the climate is working in their favor when it comes to that regard. Next, I have Jackass 4. Jackass, Kenny vs. Spenny, Tom Green, and then those cartoons like South Park and Family Guy. They're all part of that same kind of wave of crass comedy that started hitting TVs in the 2000s. And I feel like that kind of works in a weird way. If you're making a Jackass 4, then that leaves the possibility to a Kenny versus Spenny if Jackass 4 does really well. Now, if Jackass 4 kind of bends the knee and doesn't go all the way like Jackass 1, 2, 3, then maybe they'll like back off of it. But if Jackass 4 is just as raunchy as the three other movies, and seeing as that Jackass 4 and Kenny vs. Spenny is kind of along the same lines of comedy, I can see it working. If Jackass 4 does really well, then that kind of suggests that a Kenny versus Spenny would do really well, is what I'm saying. Now, Jackass 4 is highly probable to be a box office success, in my opinion. Firstly, because it's a very cheap movie to make. It's a bunch of guys dicking around in their backyard with a bunch of cameras. Not a very expensive movie to make, so they have that going for them. And also, this movie is being exclusively shown in theaters, which they also have that going for them. A lot of movies like Black Widow and Jungle Cruise, those were released in theaters and on streaming at the same time, and it kind of shot the studios in the foot because piracy became a huge thing and people were just pirating the movie. I think Paramount caught on to it and said, you know what, let's just release Jackass 4 in theaters. And a lot of people are going to rush to the theaters to watch this movie, in my opinion. So if Jackass 4 does well, I feel like we're a bit closer to getting another season of Kenny versus Spenny. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows at this point? Now for the points against, their age. Now I put that in a pro, but it's also a con at the same time. When you look at episodes like the 69 episode, uh, the two guys are in a 69 position and they're getting a fire hose blown at them. And that's okay to do when you're in your 20s and your 30s and even your 40s, but when you're approaching your 50s, injuries start to become a little more serious at that age. So the age is definitely something to consider, but I feel like it's more of a positive than a negative. Also, a negative is broadcasters. Broadcasters are not going to want to take a risk on Kenny versus Spenny. Something people don't really understand is that say Netflix buys the rights to make a new season of Kenny vs. Spenny, they're also buying the back catalog of Kenny vs. Spenny. So Netflix purchases Kenny vs. Spenny. All of a sudden, angry Twitter mob looks through all the seasons of Kenny vs. Spenny. They find the Hoodoo Black Guys Like More episode, and then they're like, wow, Netflix, seriously? Come on, in 2021? So that's why a broadcaster would be skeptical to acquire Kenny vs. Spenny. Because you can say, oh, they're just going to make a new season, but make it more tame. That's not the issue at hand here. It's more the back catalog and the backlash that would come from it. Next, I have cancel culture written here, which, yes, I said that the political climate would make Kenny vs. Spenny a success, but at the same time, look, these guys are old. People are going to want to cancel them. The angry Twitter mob is going to go after them if they make a new season of Kenny vs. Spenny. Do these guys really want to put up with it at this age? Kenny, from what I understand, is doing financially well. Spenny, not so much, but he's got his music career, and that's going for him, and his YouTube channel is starting to blow up. These guys are probably like, I'm happy without the Twitter mob going after my children, and their children are probably attending school at this point. Do they really want, like, kids going up to them and being like, oh, my dad tweeted your dad and said that your dad is an asshole? They're too old for that shit at some point. So those are the pros and cons. At the end of the day, in my heart, the pros outweigh the cons, but realistically, I feel like unfortunately the cons kind of outweigh the pros, which is why, at least not in the foreseeable future, we're not going to get another season of Kenny vs. Spenny, which is really sad because I'm sure the guys ultimately would like to make another season. But I feel like realistically, when you put it on paper, it's really hard to pull off. But let's not just make it about me. Let me jump into some of the comments that people were putting on that video. Hold on a second. This is a one-man band here. Alright, here we go. Let's look at some of the comments. Kelly Shee says, I'm so glad I downloaded the Hoodoo Black Guys Like More episodes. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, that's the infamous episode where Kenny does blackface, and Kenny took it off of his YouTube, which goes to show that he really doesn't want to put up with an angry mob at this point in his life, which, by the way, that Hoodoo Black Guys Like episode, we talked about it in that interview, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Of course he does blackface, but I don't see it as being more offensive than the Hoodoo Gay Guys Like episode, where Kenny does, like, an outright stereotypical gay impression, which it goes with the vibe of the show. Everything is out of good faith, and everyone gets picked on in the show. Kenny is a Jew, he picks on Jews in the show. He picks on gays, he picks on black people. It's just what he does. Ash Ventura says, awesome job. This is an awesome interview, good job. Thanks, Ash Ventura. Ash Ventura is a frequent commenter on this channel, which I appreciate. Thank you very much. Monkey says, to be honest, we need comedy like KVS in today's age. I agree with that statement. I feel like there is a market for it. There is a need for it. Now, the problem is you have all of these big conglomerate companies like a Netflix or every other streaming service out there like Apple and all those guys. They're billion-dollar companies. Do they really think that the money they could gain from a new season of Kenny vs. Spenny is worth potentially tarnishing their image? I don't think it is for them, unfortunately. It would take a smaller broadcasting company. Wrench Boy says, I still watch KVS with friends. There are a lot of hilarious episodes, but also some gags that make me go, how did this get on national television? Yeah, especially the CBC episodes. There's some episodes that were aired on the CBC that makes you go like, how was this on the CBC? I don't think KVS would survive with what's socially acceptable today, but if they were to continue the series, they would have more strict guidelines due to what is acceptable today and what broadcasters are willing to publish. Again, you're also acquiring the back catalog and the reputation of these two guys, and I don't think broadcasters, even if they tame it down a lot and make it a very PG show, I feel like that back catalog is a lot to swallow for these companies. Sam Funny Farm says, rants about Weinstein but exposed himself to Kenny's mom. Ah, I see what you did there. Spenny was ranting about the Weinstein incident in that episode, and then he calls him out on his bullshit, which I don't think that's a fair comparison, really. Let's be real. There's a difference between, like, doing a dumb joke on a reality TV show versus raping women, so not a fair comparison. Son of Akion says, so Spencer is still a complete dupe. Come on, guys, be nice with Spencer. Hashtag, right when I say that, hashtag justice for Wolfish, which is a running joke. Okay, this one is interesting. Kenny versus Spenny, this is from Rhoda, by the way. Kenny versus Spenny, 100% would not work in 2021. I love the show, but it's super, super problematic. Lots of racist stuff and sexist stuff. They're great people and made a great show, but that show just isn't right for the times, which, I can, like, humor is subjective, and sometimes, like, people evolve, but I've noticed my sense of humor, even the movies when I watched when I was a kid, to me, when I was a kid, the movies that had a huge influence on me were, Airplane, the Leslie Nielsen comedies, the Austin Powers movies, and those movies are still funny to me today. So it's a bit of a case by case. I can see where you're coming from, where I feel like because the climate is so, like, tense, that even when you are watching these episodes, which are really crass, you do feel a sense, like, I look over my shoulder sometimes when I watch a Kenny versus Spenny episode. I'm like, fuck, is anyone watching me watch this, you know? I get where you're coming from, and it has been harder for me to laugh at some of this comedy because of that guilt that was, like, ingrained into me in the past several years, but the show is still funny, in my opinion. HSHD says, and what is the answer now? I don't know what he means by that. I'm sorry. Natural Bug Killer says, you can't find that episode anymore. Woke. I don't think it's a case of Kenny and Spenny being woke, per se. I don't think they are. If you look at that interview with Spenny, what he says now is basically what he would have said back when the show was airing. I don't think it's like these guys are woke and they're like, hey, let's all live together. They're not pulling a Seth Rogen here where all of a sudden they're Cali hippies. But yeah, I don't think it's a case of being woke. It's just they're scared. They have families now. The environment is very stressful where you can get your career, not only your career, basically your life taken away from you at any point because of Twitter. I don't think it's a case of them being woke. It's just the unfortunate reality we live in. Which, that will do it for this episode. Thanks for commenting, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, let me know what you think. Can they make a 2021 version of Kenny versus Spenny? Will it still work? Would you still laugh? Do you think broadcasters would be interested in it? I'm curious to see what you guys think. Comment below, let me know.